Good morning students. In the last class we studied about some of the physical and chemical properties of group 16 elements. I hope you remember the group 16 elements. The elements are oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium and polonium along with the radioactive element livermorium. Okay. So in the last class we also studied about the reactivity of group 16 elements with oxygen and hydrogen. In this class we are going to study about the reactivity of group 16 elements with the halogens. So whenever group 16 elements combines with the halogen, halogen means chlorine, fluorine, bromine or iodide, they give respective halides, either fluorides, chlorides, bromides or iodides. Okay. So elements of group 16 form halides of the type EX6, EX4 and EX2, where E is an element of group 16 and X is a halogens. So this EX6 are called hexahalides, EX4 are called tetrahalides and EX2 is called dihalides. That is based on the different oxidation states of the group 16 elements, plus 6, plus 4 or plus 2. They exhibit different halides. And the stability of a halide decreases in the order. Fluorides are more stable than chlorides, and then fluorides, then bromides, and the least reactive halides are iodide because of their large size. And the three types of halides are hexahalides, tetrahalides and dihalides. In hexahalides of the type ES6, only hexafluorides are stable. Hexahalides andre, for example SF6, sulfur hexafluoride. So here only hexafluorides are stable. Andre hexachlorides, hexabromides, hexaiodides alla ನೀವು compare ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ only hexafluorides are stable and all the hexafluorides are gaseous in nature. All the hexafluorides are gaseous in nature and they have octahedral structure. The structure of hexafluorides is octahedral. And in tetrafluorides, here considered only tetrafluoride, sulfur tetrafluoride, selenium tetrafluoride and tellurium tetrafluoride. Sulfur tetrafluoride is a gas, selenium tetrafluoride is a liquid and tellurium tetrafluoride is a solid. Okay. And hope you remember the stability order. Only hexafluorides or fluorides are more stable compared to that of chlorides or bromides or iodides. So here we considered only fluorides of group 16 elements, that is tetrafluoride, and these tetrafluorides undergoes sp3d hybridization. They undergoes sp3d hybridization. For example, in SF4 the oxidation atomic number of sulfur is or configuration is 3s2 3p4. So here we can write it as 1 2 3 4, right? So in order to combine it with the 4 fluorine atoms, SF4 4 fluorine atoms adre illi only 2 unpaired electrons are available. To make available of 4 orbitals, this is 3s2 3p4, 1 2 3 and 4. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ 4 unpaired electrons ಬೇಕು because it has to combine with the 4 fluorine atoms, so that one of the p electrons gets unpaired, 1 2 3, and it is promoted to the 3d orbital like this. So this is promoted to the 3d orbital. Now here 4 unpaired electrons are available and that combines with 4 fluorine atoms, and here the hybridization is sp3d. sp3d. So sp3, geometry of sp3d hybridization is trigonal bipyramidal. Trigonal bipyramidal. Here it is sulfur, this is fluorine, this is fluorine and fluorine and fluorine. Here it is occupied by a lone pair of electron. It is occupied by lone pair of electrons. So because of the presence of lone pair of electrons in one of the equatorial positions, the bonds present on this plane is called equatorial bonds, and these two bonds are called axial bonds. So since the lone pair of electron is occupied one of the equatorial position, the geometry is considered as a seesaw geometry. So because of this repulsion, this slightly bends. This fluorine atoms of SF is slightly bent towards the equatorial plane. Hence the geometry is called seesaw geometry. So this is called seesaw geometry. So that is because of the presence of lone pair of electrons in the equatorial position. Actually the geometry is tetrahedral, trigonal bipyramidal, but because of the presence of this lone pair of electrons, this axial bonds are slightly moved towards the equatorial plane. Hence the geometry is considered as seesaw geometry. So this is about tetrafluorides. And in dihalides, except oxygen, all elements forms dichlorides and dibromides. Oxygen do not form any dichlorides or dibromides, and they undergo sp3 hybridization. They undergo sp3 hybridization. Therefore the geometry is tetrahedral, but actually because of the presence of two unpaired electrons, they have bent structure like the structure of water. The structure of these dihalides is bent structure, right? And monohalides are dimeric. The familiar monohalides are dimeric in nature. For example, S2, F2, S2Cl2 or S2Br2, Se2Cl2 and Se2Br2. These are monohalides, but they are dimeric. Dimeric means they are in the dimer form, right? And they undergo disproportionation. So for example, Se2Cl2, it undergoes disproportionation as Cl4 and Se. Cl4 and Se. So this 2 Se2 and this is 2 Se. So what do you mean by disproportionation? An element in the given oxidation state undergoes simultaneous oxidation and reduction. Here Se2Cl2, if you can take the oxidation state of selenium as 2x plus minus 2 is equal to 0, x is equal to plus 1, and here it is minus 4 and this is 0. So it undergoes oxidation and reduction. So this is plus 4. It is plus 4. Selenium has oxidation state of plus 4 in SeCl4. So plus 4 is in plus 1 is increased to plus 4, that is it undergoes oxidation, and plus 1 is decreased to 0. In the elemental state the oxidation state is 0, hence it undergoes simultaneous oxidation and reduction. So this undergoes disproportionation, right? So in dihalides, except oxygen, all elements forms dichlorides and dibromides, and they undergo sp3 hybridization. They undergo sp3 hybridization. 1s orbital and 3 p orbitals are available for bonding, but in that 2 are unpaired electrons. sp3, only 2 electrons are available for 2 unpaired electrons in p subshell is available for bonding, and 2 remains as unpaired electrons. Because of the presence of 2 unpaired electrons, they have bent structure like water. Otherwise its structure is expected that it is tetrahedral. And monohalides are dimeric. So these are monohalides, but they are present as dihalides. S2F2, S2Cl2 and S2Br2, Se2Cl2 and Se2Br2, but these dihalides are undergo disproportionation. One of the example is Se2Cl2, it undergoes disproportionation as SeCl4 plus Se, selenium. It undergoes simultaneous oxidation and reduction. So this is about the reactivity of group 16 elements with the halogens. If you want to take these points, I can write it. Next, let us move on to the important compounds of group 16 elements. In that, first important compound is dioxygen or O2. So So first let us see the preparation of dioxygen. So by heating oxygen containing salts such as chlorates, nitrates and permanganates. Oxygen containing salts like chlorates, for example potassium chlorate KClO3, when it is heated in the presence of catalyst like manganese dioxide, it gives KCl and O2. Similarly, by heating nitrates or permanganate also, it gives oxygen. By heating oxygen containing salts such as chlorates, nitrates and permanganates, we get oxygen. So this is equation. Potassium chlorate on heating in the presence of manganese dioxide gives a potassium chloride and oxygen. Next, by thermal decomposition of higher oxides of some metals. By thermal decomposition of higher oxides of some metal also we can get oxygen. One of the example is by heating mercuric oxide we get mercury Hg and O2. So O2, 2 Hg and 2 Hg. So this is one of the method to prepare oxygen by thermal decomposition of higher oxides of some metals, and other examples are Ag2O, silver oxide decomposed to give silver and O2. Similarly, lead oxide Pb3O4, red lead, it is decomposed to give lead oxide and O2. And one more example is PbO2 decomposes to give PbO plus O2. So this is also one of the method to prepare oxygen. So this is second method of preparation of dioxygen by thermal decomposition of higher oxides of some metals like Ag2O, lead oxide or mercuric oxide and PbO2. So these are the two methods. There are 5 methods of preparation of dioxygen. The first method is by heating oxygen containing salts like chlorates, nitrates and permanganates, and second is by the thermal decomposition. Thermal decomposition is by heating. By heating metal oxides of silver or lead or mercury. Next, third method, by the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. The third method of preparation of oxygen is by the thermal decomposition of hydrogen peroxide into water. Hydrogen peroxide H2O2, it decomposes to give water and oxygen, and the reaction is carried out in the presence of finely divided metals and manganese dioxide as catalyst. So this is third method of preparation of oxygen by the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide in the presence of finely divided metals and manganese dioxide as catalyst. And this is third method. In the fourth method we can prepare oxygen by the electrolysis of water. On electrolysis of water it gives hydrogen gas at cathode and oxygen gas at anode. Electrolysis means decomposition of water by passing electric current. On that method we can get oxygen at anode. And in the last method or fifth method we can prepare oxygen from atmospheric air. We can extract oxygen from atmospheric air first by removing carbon dioxide and moisture present in the air, and by liquefying it, and then finally by fractional distillation we get liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen. That is the fifth method of preparation of oxygen. So on large scale oxygen prepared from water or air, electrolysis of water leads to the release of hydrogen at the cathode and oxygen at the anode. Next, industrial, it is obtained by removing carbon dioxide and water vapor from air. Then remaining gases are liquefied and fractionally distilled to give dinitrogen and dioxygen. Right? So these are the 5 methods of preparation of dioxygen. First is by the decomposition of oxygen containing salts, and second is by the thermal decomposition of metal oxides. third is by the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide, and fourth is by the electrolysis of water, and fifth is from atmospheric air. And next let us see what are the properties of oxygen. So oxygen is a colorless and odorless gas, and it has a very less solubility in water. Its solubility is about 3.08 cm cube in 100 cm cube of water at 293 Kelvin, which is just sufficient for the survival of aquatic life. And it has three stable isotopes: oxygen 16, oxygen 17 and oxygen 18. Isotopes means elements having same atomic number but different mass numbers. The three stable isotopes of oxygen are oxygen 16, oxygen 17 and oxygen 18. These are three isotopes of oxygen. Next, it liquefies at 90 Kelvin and freezes at 55 Kelvin. And dioxygen is paramagnetic in nature. So paramagnetic means the molecules which contains unpaired electrons. So if there is no unpaired electrons, the molecule is considered as a diamagnetic, but oxygen is a paramagnetic in nature. So in spite of having even number of electrons in oxygen molecule, it is paramagnetic in nature. So that can be written like this: oxygen O2, there are 8 plus 8, 16 electrons in oxygen molecule. If you fill these electrons in the molecular orbitals, so we can write the configuration like this: sigma 1s, sigma star 1s, sigma 2s, sigma star 2s and sigma 2pz, then pi 2px is equal to pi 2py, then pi star 2px is equal to pi star 2py, then sigma star 2pz. This is a molecular orbital configuration of oxygen molecule. So if you write the 16 electrons here, sigma 1s2, sigma star 1s2 and sigma 2s2, sigma star 2s2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, plus 1, 13, plus 14, 15 and 16. So this is filled in accordance with Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. So here it contains two unpaired electrons in the antibonding molecular orbitals. Hence the oxygen molecule is considered as a paramagnetic because it contains two unpaired electrons in the antibonding molecular orbital. Hence dioxygen is paramagnetic in nature even though it contains even number of electrons. Next, dioxygen directly reacts with most of the metals and non-metals and some noble gases. Right? It reacts with directly with the most of the metals except platinum and gold, noble metals, and non-metals and some noble gases. Some of the reactions of dioxygen with the metals and non-metals and some other compounds. Here oxygen directly reacts with the metals. Most of the reactions of oxygen with other elements is exothermic, but initially it needs some heat to initiate the reaction because of the large bond dissociation enthalpy of oxygen to oxygen double bond. It is 493.4 kilojoules per mole. Because of the large bond dissociation enthalpy of oxygen to oxygen double bond, we need more energy to break the bond. But once the reaction is initiated, the reaction will be spontaneous. Okay? And some of the reactions of dioxygen with the metals, non-metals and other compounds are with the metals. We can write the reactions like this: calcium reacts with oxygen and it gives calcium oxide, and you have to balance the equation 2CaO and 2Ca. And aluminium, Al plus O2 and it gives aluminium oxide, Al2O3. So this is 3 and this is 2. 4Al. So these two are the reactions of oxygen with the metals, calcium and aluminium, with the non-metals, carbon and oxygen to give carbon dioxide, phosphorus, P4 and oxygen to give P4O10, 5O2. And these are the two reactions of oxygen with the non-metals. And some compounds, for example zinc sulfide, when reacts with oxygen, it gives zinc oxide plus sulfur dioxide. Zinc oxide plus sulfur dioxide. So to balance 2, 3, 2 and 2. Yes, and some methane, reaction of methane with oxygen, and it gives carbon dioxide and water. CH4, 2H2O, and this is 2O2. So these are the reactions of oxygen with the metals, non-metals and with compounds. With metals like calcium and aluminium, with non-metals like phosphorus and carbon, and with the compounds zinc sulfide and methane. When zinc sulfide is heated with the oxygen, it gives zinc oxide. It is one of the method for the conversion of sulfide ore into oxide ore of zinc. And next is combustion of methane. It gives carbon dioxide and water. So these are the reactions of oxygen with the metals, non-metals and with compounds. And some other reactions takes place in the presence of a catalyst. The reactions of oxygen with some other compounds takes place in the presence of catalyst, like oxidation of sulfur dioxide O2 to give sulfur trioxide. This reaction takes place in the presence of vanadium pentoxide as a catalyst. So this is a reaction which takes place in the presence of catalyst, vanadium pentoxide. One more reaction is when hydrogen chloride reacts with oxygen, it gives Cl2 and H2O. So this is 2 HCl, O2, four HCl and 2Cl2. So this reaction takes place in the presence of cupric chloride as a catalyst, CuCl2. So these are the reactions of oxygen where it takes place in the presence of a catalyst. Oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide takes place in the presence of vanadium pentoxide catalyst, and the reaction of HCl takes place in the presence of cupric chloride as catalyst. So these are the important reactions of oxygen with metals, non-metals and with compounds, and also which takes place in the presence of catalyst. So oxidation of sulfur dioxide to sulfur trioxide in the presence of V2O5, vanadium pentoxide as catalyst, and reaction of HCl in the presence of cupric chloride as catalyst. And uses of oxygen. Oxygen is used in oxyacetylene welding, in the manufacture of many metals, particularly steel. And oxygen cylinders are widely used in hospitals, high altitude flying and in mountaineering. The combustion of hydrazines in liquid oxygen provides tremendous thrust in rockets. So these are the important uses of oxygen. In spite of its importance in combustion and respiration, it has these uses. Oxygen is used in oxyacetylene welding, in the manufacture of many metals, particularly steel. And as you know, oxygen cylinders are widely used in hospitals and higher altitude mountaineering and flying. Then combustion of hydrazines in liquid oxygen provides tremendous thrust in rockets. So these are the important uses of oxygen. So in the oxygen we studied about preparation of oxygen. There are 5 methods of preparation of oxygen and properties of oxygen and chemical reactions of oxygen with some compounds and metals, non-metals, and the uses of oxygen, right? Next, oxides. A binary compound of an element with oxygen is called oxide. ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಜೊತೆ ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಆದರೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. There are 2 types of oxides, simple oxides and mixed oxides. So simple oxide means where the element exhibit only one oxidation state. A mixed oxide means where the element is present, or there is a combination of 2 simple oxides where the element present in 2 different oxidation states. For example, the magnetic oxide of ion Fe3O4, it is actually the combination of Fe2O3 and FeO. Fe3O4, correct. Fe2 plus 1 Fe, that is Fe3, and O4, 3 plus 1, O4, right? So this is called the mixed oxide. It is actually the combination of 2 oxides, 2 simple oxides where the element exhibits 2 different oxidation state. The oxidation state of iron, here it is plus 3 and here it is plus 2. So it exhibits 2 oxidation state, and mixed oxides shows the properties of both the oxides simultaneously, right? And one more mixed oxide is red lead, or Pb3O4. It is also one of the mixed oxide. But in this chapter we are going to study in detail about simple oxides where the element exhibit only one oxidation states. Next, types of simple oxides. There are 4 types of simple oxides. The first one is acidic oxides. Acidic oxide means oxide of an element when it combines with the water, if it gives H plus ion, that oxides are considered as acidic oxide. ಸೊ ಅಸಿಡಿಕ್ ಅಂತ ಬರಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಏನಿರಬೇಕಲ್ಲಿ H ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಬಟ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಜೊತೆ ಕಂಬೈನ್ ಆಗುವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ H ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಎನ್ ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಡಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ವಾಟರ್, ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗಿವ್ H ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಯಾನ್. ಸೊ ಸಚ್ ಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ acidic oxides. For example, carbon dioxide, an oxide, when it is dissolved in water, it gives carbonic acid, H2CO3. This carbonic acid may give H plus ion, 2H plus plus carbonate ion, CO3, 2 minus, right? So this oxide is called acidic oxide. The oxide, when it dissolves in water, if it gives H plus ion, the corresponding oxide is called acidic oxide. Or sulfur dioxide, SO2 plus H2O, it gives H2SO3, sulfurous acid, H2SO3, and that can give H plus ion, plus SO3 2 minus, 2H plus and SO3 2 minus. So hence it is considered as a acidic oxide. When an oxide dissolves in water, if it gives H plus ion, that oxide is called acidic oxide. So carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, these are oxides of non-metals. So generally oxides of non-metals are acidic oxides. Okay, oxides of non-metals are acidic oxides. And that is one type of simple oxide. So another type of simple oxide is basic oxide. So what are basic oxide? When an oxide dissolves in water, if it gives a base or OH minus ion, that oxide is considered as a basic oxide. For example, calcium oxide, CaO, when it is dissolved in water, it gives calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice, right? So this CaOH twice, it can decompose into Ca2 plus and OH minus, 2OH minus. So when it gives 2OH minus, this corresponding oxide is considered as a basic oxide. So when an oxide dissolved in water, if it gives OH minus ion, that is called basic oxide. Or Na2O, sodium oxide, when it is dissolved in water, it gives sodium hydroxide, NaOH. So this is also a basic oxide. So here calcium oxide or sodium oxide, these are metals, right? Calcium or sodium are metals. So oxides of metals are basic oxides, oxides of non-metals are acidic oxides, and oxides of metals are basic oxides. Generally this happens, oxides of non-metals are acidic oxides and oxides of metals are basic oxides. So acidic oxides are those which when dissolved in water gives H plus ion, and basic oxides are those when oxides are dissolved in water if it gives OH minus ions. Next, amphoteric oxides. So amphoteric oxides behaves both as an it reacts with both acids and bases. One of the example for amphoteric acid is Al2O3. Oxide is Al2O3. Aluminium oxide, it reacts with both acidic acid and a base. So just write down this acidic oxide and basic oxide and their example. Example for acidic oxide, reactions of carbon dioxide plus water to give H2CO3. Just remember the examples, carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, and basic oxide, calcium oxide and sodium oxide. And amphoteric oxide is aluminium oxide Al2O3. So when aluminium oxide Al2O3 reacts with HCl in the presence of water, it gives a complex AlH2O6 3 plus chloride ion Cl minus, and also it reacts with the base Al2O3 plus NaOH plus H2O. It gives another complex of the formula Na3AlOH6 in the aqueous state. So aluminium oxide is an example amphoteric oxide. You have to balance this equation. This is 6, 9, and this is 2, and this is 6, and this is 6, 3, and this is 2. So aluminium oxide is an amphoteric oxide. It reacts with an acid and with a base. So that is an example for amphoteric oxide. And one more type of oxide is neutral oxide. So neutral oxides are neither acidic nor basic. Such type of oxides are called neutral oxides. Carbon monoxide or nitric oxide, NO, are the examples for neutral oxides. So these are the 4 types of simple oxides: acidic oxides, basic oxides, amphoteric oxides and neutral oxides. Just remember the examples: acidic oxides, carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide; basic oxide, calcium oxide or Na2O, sodium oxide; and amphoteric oxide, aluminium oxide, Al2O3; and neutral oxide is CO and NO. Okay, next move on to ozone. So ozone is an allotropic form of oxygen. Its formula is O3. Ozone is an allotropic form of oxygen, and to prepare ozone, when a slow dry stream of oxygen is passed through silent electrical discharge, conversion of oxygen to ozone occurs. That means when a slow stream of current is passed through dry oxygen, conversion of oxygen to ozone takes place, but the reaction takes place only to 10%. That is, only 10% of the ozone is produced the product is known as ozonized oxygen because it contains only 10% of ozone, hence it is called ozonized oxygen. So we can write the equation conversion of oxygen to ozone. So by passing slow or silent electrical discharge through dry oxygen, we can convert oxygen into ozone. And here the reaction is endothermic with the absorption of 142 kilojoules per mole. So it is necessary to maintain silent electrical discharge because the increase in heat may turn the reaction in backward direction, right? So this is the production of ozonized oxygen. So if you require oxygen concentration greater than 10%, we have to use another instrument called battery of ozonizer. So ozone is allotropic form of oxygen. The preparation of ozone is by passing silent electric discharge through dry oxygen. The conversion of oxygen to ozone is an endothermic reaction. Next, let us see what are the properties of ozone. The physical property is pure ozone is a pale blue gas, dark blue liquid and a violet black solid, and it has a characteristic smell. Ozone has a characteristic smell. In the lower concentration it is harmless, but when the concentration exceeds 100 ppm, the breathing become uncomfortable, resulting in headache and nausea. And in small concentration it is harmless. If the concentration exceeds 100 ppm, breathing becomes uncomfortable and resulting in headache and nausea. Nausea means vomiting sensation. And ozone is thermodynamically unstable. Ozone is thermodynamically unstable because we know the conversion of oxygen into ozone, it is endothermic reaction. But if we consider the reversible reaction, that is ozone to oxygen, the reaction is exothermic. Delta H is negative. Conversion of oxygen to ozone is endothermic reaction, whereas conversion of ozone into oxygen is an exothermic reaction. So delta H is negative, and also there is an increase in entropy. So in the reactant there are only 2 molecules of ozone, but in the product side there are 3 molecules of gaseous oxygen. So final entropy is greater than the initial entropy, hence delta S is positive. So for the conversion of ozone into oxygen, delta H is negative and delta S is positive. And if you consider these 2 points in Gibbs equation, delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Delta H is negative and this is positive. Positive into minus becomes negative, so that combines and makes delta G more negative. Delta G becomes more negative means reaction is spontaneous. So conversion of ozone into oxygen is highly explosive. So ozone is thermodynamically unstable with respect to oxygen. It decomposes into oxygen with the liberation of heat. So if concentration of ozone undergo decomposition, that can be dangerously explosive. High concentration accumulate madidre, it may highly dangerous. Okay. And ozone, it is too reactive to be stable in the atmospheric level. So it is formed at the height of 20 kilometers from the surface of the earth from oxygen and sunlight. At the earth ground level it is unstable, but it is formed at the height of 20 kilometers from the surface of the earth from the oxygen and sunlight. It protects the earth from the high concentration of UV radiation. Hope you know the importance of ozone layer, right? So during the decomposition it liberates nascent oxygen. So when decomposition of ozone gives nascent oxygen and oxygen, so it can act as a powerful reducing agent. So ozone is a powerful oxidizing agent because of the liberation of nascent oxygen. Okay. So these are some of the properties of ozone. It's a pale blue gas, dark blue liquid and violet black solid. It has a characteristic smell, and in the lower concentration it is harmless, but in the higher concentration it may cause headache and nausea. And ozone is thermodynamically unstable because its conversion into oxygen accompanied by negative value of delta H and positive value of delta S, that combines and that makes delta G becomes more negative, hence the reaction is spontaneous. And during the decomposition it liberates nascent oxygen, so it can act as a powerful reducing agent. Okay, so it is a powerful oxidizing agent. Okay, next let us discuss about the more properties of ozone more in the next class. Okay, thank you.